Hey there, everybody, rookies and Army veterans alike. It's your buddy Choppadong. It is Friday. It is Free Peak Friday, and I'm going to show you a tool on the back end of this video. We're going to try and do that on Fridays, kind of give you a little tour of the MLB and maybe a couple other sports if we branch out into those, whatever. As we parse through the DFS Army tools and advice and coaching and everything that makes you a better player here at dfsarmy.com. So the first thing that I actually wanted to do today was show you just an amazing compliment that I got. I get these periodically from people that I talk to, and sometimes even out of the blue. And it's a great feeling. It's a great reward. You guys liking and subscribing to videos and all of that stuff really makes me think that I do maybe have a knack for explaining things to you guys in a simplified format, which is really all this is. It isn't rocket science. I almost greeted you guys this afternoon with "Good afternoon, rocket scientists" as a sarcastic comment, because it just doesn't have to be that way, and everybody digs way too deep. But the compliment that I got today was just crazy in terms of a guy who plays second place, Brian, and said that it was just a hat tip to the system, right? The system that we teach every day. It didn't really say it in that first, explanation. Guys started asking, said, "Hey, what's the system? What are we talking about?" And I said, well, it was probably either the ownership system we preach for cash games, or it was the K-score, W-score, hot hitter system that we use for GPPs. Now, that said, I've got systems upon systems upon systems. General Electric doesn't have as many systems as I have, but the way that it works, really simply stated, is it's the daily system that we've been talking about, that Brian was talking about. And the bottom line is, when you look at what he says, since joining DFS Army, I mean, he was winning before, a winning player before, but now he has a first in basketball, a second, a third, 2 more top 10 finishes in baseball, 7 top 10s in hockey with a couple of thirds, and is never close to the top 10 before in any of these sports. It's not just me. Yeah, I might get the compliment here, and that's great, but it's all of our coaches. It's all of our tools. It's all of our community that lifts each other up and actually takes an interest in you becoming a better player. You don't know this unless you've plugged in and checked this out. But these types of testimonials, these types of compliments do come in more frequently than you would think for an organization that, that is a premium subscription type organization. But it's because we care and because it works. It's that simple. So let's dive into the system that Brian's talking about, show you from front to back exactly what we do. I like to use the Fanduel Pitchers tab. Again, these stats don't change from site to site. What changes is this section here. And I don't need to look at this section because I'm going to be sliding over here and looking at the chop shop, right? I start by cutting off the early games, which I think we've got Cardinals and Cubs on the early game. It probably isn't much. The rest of these games lead to a monster slate tonight. So we need to decide how aggressive we're going to be with these pitchers. The K-score's up here at 600 above. I told you anything over 500 is in play. That's true on any slate. That means that, yeah, these guys, even these guys in the 450s, can nut the slate if they have a great day. So that none of that really should shy you away from taking a guy in a tournament. I tend to notice that the chalky pitchers are winning the tournaments. Last night, it was Montas and Minor and Rogers and whatever that were all in the winning lineups. That happens night in and night out. Therefore, I don't need to worry about these turd donkeys down here at the bottom. I'm looking at the guys up here at the top. If somebody here, DeGrom's going to be owned, Scherzer's going to be owned, these guys are going to carry ownership, and that's fine, right? But when I see other guys that are kind of high up on the K-score list, maybe Giolito slips a little bit, maybe Miley slips a little bit in ownership compared to the other guys, I'm going to also include those guys in my builds because they have the upside to nut the slate. I'm not dipping way down here because they're not carrying any ownership. In fact, if it calls up soon enough, I'll just go ahead and show that to you as well. But the main thing is we're going to take note of these guys here. We're going to dive over into the main slate. And when that bad boy pops up, come on. If I don't do this right now, I'm going to get it out of order. So I'm just making sure that I show you guys. Projected ownership, sort by that column. Bring all of the chalk to the top. Kick off just the pitchers. Scherzer, DeGrom, Giolito's third, 16%. So there's a good bit of these top three, but Morton, Kershaw, Ohtani, Woodruff, Molly, right, are at the bottom. So where's Molly in that list, right? Whoop, that was the tool I'm going to show you. So where's Miley? Fourth on the list. DeGrom, Giolito, and Scherzer were the top three. Miley's next. Miley's 550 is still in the range that can nut the slate, right? Aiken, Skubal. Let's see where those guys' ownerships are. Where's Aiken and Skubal? Not even on the list, on the radar. There's your lower owned pitchers that could go off. You don't need to look at. I'm personally going to stick in these top three. I'll pull some Morton, Kershaw, maybe down here in Molly and Woodruff because I know they're great pitchers. Snell, I know they can have good days. I might include a couple of those, but these are the guys that you're going to probably see in the winning lineups tonight. Period. End of story. You might see one of these guys sneak in there. I don't need to look down here very often unless I was getting really crazy with somebody else down there. Okay. I'm just telling you, and I'm overthinking that for what I teach normally. I normally just say take the top 5 owned pitchers and be done with it. But I would include Miley. So once we've figured out what those pitchers are, we jump down in here into the W score, and now we're going to find our stacks. Because once this WOBA score comes up to the top, and this is the pitchers that struggle with allowing WOBA, heavy WOBA against. And this is the teams that present heavy WOBA bats. And when the good bats hit the bad pitching, you end up with fireworks and explosions all over the place. This is where you get all the 2+ home run per 9 numbers, the big whips, big Sierras, like we mentioned yesterday. Usually a lot of hard contact. Pulte Newitz, DeYoung, Stripling, Skubal again. Skubal's risky. Got a good K score, but he's got a bad W score. Yarbrough, Savali, whatever. Kelly, Scherzer gets roughed up a little. That's an interesting number for Scherzer. Maybe he's going up against somebody, San Francisco, that has some BVP against him. Hint, hint, my free tip to you. Brandon Crawford. Go look him up. You're going to see some decent BVP in terms of OPS against these guys, okay? Some of these guys. And you're going to see why they struggle a little bit and why that WOBA score is up there a little bit. Now, what we do after we look at LA, Milwaukee, Boston, Chicago, Toronto, Baltimore, that's 8 or 10 stacks. One of those guys probably nuts the slate. If you can catch 2 of them, good on you. Some of these guys pop in there at random, but usually speaking, if you can cast that net, and maybe next week I'll show you a real neat little trick that I do with the leverage stacks tool that gives us, I believe, a little bit of an advantage. But we need to get the time off of here. If I want to show you that other tool, we need to dive in and we need to boogie. So cut down this filter square. This is a big slate. On big slates, I don't need to start at 400. I can start at 450. 450. And we can get in here and really knock that list down. And let's get to 250 on our little ISO friends. And let's see where that list goes. It's still a big list. Holy cripes. Holy cripes. That list probably 30 some odd names. So if I come up even higher, instead of the 450 that I was just bragging about, thinking I was going to be all cool and hit it on the first shot, maybe I need to go to 475. 475. Man alive, 475. That's got us down to about 20 names. So now I come back over here and alphabetize these bitches. It's the same routine every day. That's why I can be silly and play around with it. 3 Baltimore, 2 Cincy's, 2 Cleveland's, a Colorado, 3 Detroit's, a Houston, 2 LA's, a Miami. Miami as in Miami, Oklahoma. If any of you are from that region. Milwaukee, Minnesota, 2 Minnesotas, a Minnesota. Okay, so a couple of these dudes. Oh, Brandon Crawford's hot. Andy has good BVP. BVP against Max Scherzer. Corn dog on a stick kind of night for Brandon Crawford, possibly. I would look up his home run prop and I might throw a buck or two on it, to be quite honest with you. I would feel that strongly about it. But these are the guys that are thumping the baseball. These are the guys when you come into the domination station that when you kick over to the all tab, you start boosting these guys. Give them, you know what, you want to bring another guy in there, go back to the pitchers tab and put a 15% on Miley, right? He might jump up in there and then all of a sudden mix in with the Scherzers and the Giolitos and the guys that are DeGroms that are gaining the ownership. And he might, I'm telling you, he might be the pivot tonight like Mike Minor was last night. This is the way these things work. They might backfire. But if you don't give up after a few bad days, if you stick with the system will pay off. Brian just told you that it's going to pay off for you. So these are the guys that I'd be, giving the little boosts to and whatnot. This is by by ownership. I would sort it back by team, and I would go through alphabetically and just bing, 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 put that on all those guys. Doesn't mean that a guy only hitting 420 is a scrub tonight because we filtered off to 475. That guy might still hit 2 bombs or 3 tonight. Who knows? It just means we're wanting the really, really, really hot guys to be in the most of our lineups, and then the other guys can mix in as the projections see fit. Okay, I mean, I've had guys that are technically cold show up in my stacks and blow up and win something for me. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. It's the way it works. There's a lot of short-term luck in this game. We're putting this system together so we can do this day in and day out and day in and day out and day in and day out so that at the end of August we have something to look at, right? I don't care about May. I don't care about June. I'd like to care about May and June put together and be positive. But if I'm not, it's not the end of the world. I just want to be positive at the end of the year. That's the long run you're in, and you need that sample size in a highly volatile game like baseball. You need that sample size. So since I gave you a little bonus information on the domination station and how you might look to kind of play around with that and how you might pick your pitchers based on K score and then ownership, I'm going to kick over to the weather station now and show you there's no rain today other than in DC. But being that DC canceled last night, they might not cancel tonight. What I wanted to really, really focus on was our weather guy, Mark. Mark is a beast. Mark is in there before lock and just giving you all of the forecast, radar updates, and everything so that you can get a bead on how these games are going to go and how risky they might be. When it comes to me, my general rule of thumb when it comes to the delay and the PPD risk is I actually like going the extra step and I like looking at hourly forecasts, and I don't have one called up for you here. You know, you can search Washington, D.C. weather on Google and come up with an hourly forecast easy enough. And I'm going to go through those teams, those host cities, and I'm going to look at if it's a 40% delay risk, when is it? Is it right at game start time? Is it at 6:30, 7 o'clock when these games are going off and it might start delayed? Because if it starts delayed, then the pitcher might just start like normal. And if there's no more chances of rain the rest of the night, then he might not get delayed at all. It might not be a big deal. But if the game starts at 7 and the delayed chances are at 8 and 9 o'clock, I get a little bit nervous because that might get him pulled to the showers earlier. Even if he's mowing players down, it might get him pulled to the showers a little bit early. And then if it's a delay late, well, he might already be gone. Seventh inning and beyond, they don't go 7 innings very often anymore. So it might not be a risk. I'm trying to assess when the timing of that rain is going to hit. And I will ask Mark those questions. Are we talking about innings 3 through 5? Or are we talking about a delayed start? And Mark gives you that information as well. So it's an awesome tool and resource to have as part of being a VIP here. And I mean, hands down, the best weather guy, the most aggressive guy that you're going to meet in terms of really trying to time that stuff out for you. He understands through talking with me and him and I talking back and forth when maybe to get off of the bats, maybe when to get off of the arms. I don't typically get off of bats unless the game has a large PPD risk because I don't care. I'm playing enough MME and enough, spread out stuff. Even if it was the golden game of the night, I'd still carry it in there because everybody else is going to be afraid. And when everybody else is afraid, I want a little bit bigger piece of the action because when it does work out, especially if it looks good on paper without the weather, if it looks good, then I'm going to want to be in there when that game explodes and everybody else was too scared to do it. That's another way that you win in this game. But what I really like is the air density report and the hitter rating. If you go into our strategy section, I think the old article title is Why Weather Matters in Baseball or something like that. Just Google it, DFS Army Weather Baseball, something like that, and you'll probably see that article. And when you dig into it, Mark will explain to you how air density and high humidity allows the ball to travel farther because it doesn't have as much drag on the baseball. That's why altitude plays in. That's why humidity plays in. That's why all of these things factor in. I noticed from playing golf, I can hit a golf ball a lot farther on a humid day, and he's explained to me that that's because it's traveling through less air. It's got less resistance on it, so it does go a little bit farther. So that conjoins to the hitter and the pitcher rating. The hitter rating is a good offensive night for the St. Louis and Chicago game. It's a day game at Wrigley. Wind's probably blowing out, well, in from right, but 7 and 8 down here. Minnesota and Milwaukee. These games might be they're good for hitters, they're bad for pitchers. If they're bad for hitters, they're good for pitchers in a lot of cases. You can use these to help tie break certain situations while you're building your lineups. along with our cheat sheets and along with our domination station projections and along with our leverage stacks and our carnage report, all these things that I show you guys, and we'll go through on more on Fridays and show you each and every tool that we have and how to use it and how to implement it into your system. But the basic system doesn't change. K-score, W-score for stacks and hot hitters. Friday afternoon, Free Peak Friday. It's your buddy Chop It On. Click likes and subscribe that video, and let's go get it this weekend. Peace out, guys.